sparks down on them. And there she goes. And there you go. Oh. One taper match. Enjoy. So, welcome back to my out there. As you've seen from the prior video, I bent out and I collected a bit of material to make some bow drill sets with. So we've got some of what I call bog willow. That'll make an hearth board, hopefully. A piece of sycamore. So hopefully that'll make another hearth. So we've got a couple of hearths to try. That'll make a nice bearing block. Fits in your hand nice. We'll just put a hole in that. And another big long shoot of dead standing bog willow, which we should get some nice spindles out of. And I did pick up a couple of sticks that are possibly alright for a bow. And another one with a bit more of a curve to it and a bit heavier. Probably wants cutting down a little bit, that as well. If you go from there to there, you can see that's a bit long. That'd probably make for two people. So I'm going to go away, clean them up a bit. I don't see you needing to watch me take all the bark off, and you don't have to do that anyhow. It's just I'm doing it for personal preference. Just get my knife and I'll be giving them a bit of a clean, getting some of the rubbish bark off, so I'm not getting green and covered in cat while I'm doing it. So we'll be back shortly. Right, as you can see, I've cleaned up a few bits of these. They're a bit cleaner to handle. There's a couple of things I want to mention to you. It's the bows that I've done. This one was a little bit greener, and you can see how it's still got the fluffy willow material in the bark still on it. It doesn't have to be. I only cleaned it up so I'm not getting green hands with it all. But you know it's greener, you can feel the moisture in it. It doesn't matter for the bow. It's got some nice give in it. When you're peeling the bark off, you can instantly see the bark comes off in long strips. Really nice. So it lets you know it's greener. Whereas this one, still got a bit of spring in it. It'll still make a bow drill, but as you can see, all the underbark is brown. It's died off, and there's not a lot of life left in that one. But it will still hopefully make us a bow drill. So I just thought I'd mention that again about wood conditioning, because all this is down to wood conditioning, whether it works or not. Clean the bark off then, made a little drill up, pointy end and a downed end, about that wide again, yeah. So I thought I'd mention how we got it off here, because it seems you need to know that. So when you've got your upright, you want to look down it and find a nice section, which this doesn't look bad. So what we're going to do is use your hand on it to get a mark, and use the saw, as long as you're careful, and just put a mark on it. Once you've got your mark on it, you can cut it off. I thought it might be a bit boring you watching me clean all the other stuff off, so but I thought I'd better show you how to do this one. So there you go. You keep that for later. That's going to be another drill. So we'll get his knife and we'll just clean this off. as you're cleaning it off, you want to be fairly gentle with it because you're trying to keep the round shape. You don't want to be digging in. And taking all the nodules and bits that are going to get in your way off, and all the bark that will slip round if you don't take it off. Because you imagine the rope or the cordage is going round this and it's moving this, and that's going to slip on the bark if you don't clean it off. And I know it's a little bit boring watching me just shave bark off, but you'll start to get a feel for the stick in your hand and feel high spots and low spots, and you want to take your time with this and get this as relatively cylindrical and as smooth as you can. So I won't bore you doing this anymore, this bit, but that's the idea, so it gets it nice and smooth. I took my time more with that one. Try to keep them rounded and cylindrical, not oval. And look at your ends. Take your thicker end, this is going to be that one. Do your thumb push cut all the way around the edge, as such. And you're trying to back off a little bit on it each time, because you're trying to make a slight dome to the end. So you want to get that angle by backing off just a couple of mil every time you cut, and it's backing off down the drill bit and giving you more of an angle each time you cut through and producing your dome shape. And again, don't rush these things, take your time with them. The more time you take setting everything up, the easier it's going to be for the outcome, hopefully. And then you go to the middle bit and you can just nibble at that until you're getting your rough dome shape. I'd do that a bit more, but I'm just showing you with this one. The other tip for the other end, when this is all smooth and you've got your dome, is find the centre of the stick, which is right there where the pith is, and just give it a little twisting with your knife so you know where the centre is. And that's marked the centre of that then. So when you're doing the point cut now, you cut 1.5 inches and cut around. It doesn't matter for the first few cuts how deep you're going or anything else, but what that mark in the middle is doing is allowing you to see, like there, I need to take more material off to match that and keep it in a circle. And by doing that all the way around and watching the centre of that as you're cutting into it, you will end up with the point being more central to the drill than if you just went at it willy-nilly and pretended to do a point and thinking you were getting it central. So that's just a little tip that I use. It might help you, it might not. But as you see, as you carve around, you look at it, you can see where it needs carving. And you can see, as it's going around, this side needs more carving than that side to keep that pinnacle of that point central. So that's just a little tip for you that works, and will hopefully put the point, as I said, more central to when you're drilling it. keep checking on it, going back and seeing where you need to take more material off to even that up. And you will get to a point, hopefully, and that point is now fairly central. As such. And you know that that pinnacle is going to run through with the bearing block into your hearth. So as you're turning that, it's going to have the right pressure all the way through it. All helps, every little bit, but getting it straight, that's a little bend in it. So by putting it on now on something flattish, you can see underneath it, you'll be able to feel that there's a little bend there, so I need to take some off there. But don't go mad at it, just gently in it. Sitting better. And as you roll it around, you'll feel the wood. It's all about feel, sight and senses, as most bushcraft things really are. This is why you should straighten this up first and take your time with it. I'm just rushing that, so I'm going to leave that. But that's how you do the drum. So I shall come back to you again. Right, so let's get on with it. Maybe that's wobble. So this is solid. So we're going to take the spindle, drill, and we're going to take the bearing block. And all we're going to do is find the central point of the bearing block, get his knife, and make a little divot hole. So wherever it feels nice in your hand, so like about that, and we're just going to go into it and spin it round, start cutting out a little divot hole. And it wants to be fairly deep but not massive, because it's got to take the point of that. And as you can see, that's pretty hard wood. Putting a lot of effort into that, which is what you want. Hard wood, so it won't burn in. And then just check that that is going to sit in there as you do it, holding that and spin as such. Give them a bit of a meeting together. Possibly make it a bit deeper or a bit wider. And again, just mate them in together. They are good at burning. It's exceptionally hardwood. Excuse me. There we go. Should have a nice little hole in it that will sit into, and it's going to spin in. Hopefully that should burn in with the rest of the set. hole where we want it. And then the next one we're going to have a go at is try splitting the half boards. So you've got your spindle, you know how the half board should be as wide as the spindle. So if you look at that, you know you're not taking much off it. So always look at your materials. Look how they sit. I'm going to have a go at battening it and see what happens. So we've done battening before with the knife. I think we're just going to make a flat spot on the bottom by putting the blade on there, tapping on it, and watching it slip off. Because I'm not trying to take much material off, because there isn't much material there. From the other end, I think. Right through a knot. You wondered why that exploded. Just got rid of the knot. It doesn't have to be perfect. You are just trying to make it flat, so it'll sit flat. Might even be early carving it when it's that thin. You get the idea. You put your foot on there, you don't want that rocking. You've got to take the middleman off. With the axe on this. Well, let me go to plan, did it? Things seldom do though, do they? Especially when it comes to nature. Still rocking. Sitting better now, nice and flat, so when your foot's on it, that's going to stay fairly solid, maybe a little bit more. Seems to have made it worse again. it'll sit flat. I'm going to put a flat spot on this side, so we'll have a go at battening that. Didn't like it the first time, but remembering that you want to keep the thickness of at least your drill bit that you're using. So it's not much to come off that. Not the best wood for splitting, as you can tell. We've got a flat area. For now. Quite hard now. That might be a little on the hard side for doing the bow drill with. And definitely would have been easy to do with that. So. Might be too hard for us. So let's try the bit of Sycamore. Have a look at that, see how that's going to do. Again, just check it to see what you want to take off. We'll go for there, I think. See how this splits. Let's see if it's a bit better than that one. Not by much. Sounded better. No. Still don't want to do it. We can work with that. See if we can get this back end. Now this isn't going to want flattening out all the way. So how's it getting there? We're getting there. It's a big knot right there. which isn't being very helpful at all, as you can see. So I'll carve it down a bit. I missed that when I cut it. Well, that's what you get for rushing. Well, that's sitting. So for the purpose of this, we shouldn't have to go much further than that up anyhow. That's going to sit well. Just straighten that up a bit. Sitting better than the other one. A really rough half board. One day I'll collect decent materials. So, the bearing block, got the drill bit. We want to never drill right near the edge, because as you're drilling in, the pressure will split the wood and wreck your hole. So always come in a knuckle length of a finger, a couple of centimetres, maybe more. There's a little knot there. Look where you're going. Do a little impression test. That wood doesn't look too bad there. So I think we're going to go about there with this one. And not too close to the edge, because you're going to have to cut into that. So you want to come back a bit, but not too far back either. So get a rough idea of where it's going to go. Put the tip of your blade to the centre of that, and start twisting yourself a little hole. Doesn't have to be perfectly neat. All it's got to be is as wide as the tip of the drill, because that's what this is going to be burning into shortly. So a little hole in it, like such. But that's going to fit in and spin around in without falling out while you burn it in. And that's not looking too bad, I hope. Maybe a little out the back. That looks better. So as long as it's sitting flat, and as long as you've done some kind of hole that can go in, we're on a winner. So it's going to end up as such, with the bowstring around it and burning into there. So as you can see, I've put the paracord on one of the bows already. Simply takes the spindle as such and locks in. It's pretty solid. So let's put paracord on the other bow and see how that looks. A little bit of paracord. Take the end of it, about a middle finger's length, make a loop. Simple overhand loop knot. And that will hold that. That'll go over the Y section. And then we'll take the paracord down to where we're going to be holding the bow. And then we're going to move that across there. That's about where it's going to go, so we can hold on to it and alter it when we're bowing. So it's going to go across there roughly. So then I'm going to take the knife, mark across it, cutting into it, making that D cut that we made before on the tent pegs. Cutting into that line and trimming that line back out by going back across it again and doing the thumb push into it, all controlled. And so you've got a nice deep notch that's going to hold the paracord into it. That should be enough to hold it. Take the paracord over the tip, bring it over and back through on itself. This is the way I do it. You can do it any way you like. And just holding it on there. Get the drill bit you're using and flip that in. And then pull it up for tension. Too many bits here. So you've got the tension. You're probably going to have to adjust these anyhow. It really doesn't want to go on the floor. I just go back through again and bring it down onto the handle a bit. And a form of the X, as you can see there, and bring it underneath and through that X. Can't remember the name of the knot. I think it's a restrictor knot, but that'll just lock it in. You don't want anything you can't really undo. And I'll bring it back up this end and do the same this side, so it's like doubly done. Because you will be adjusting the paracord at some point because they stretch, especially when they're new like this. Bring it over again, form that little X. And bring it back through. And that will just lock it into place. If that gets on your wick, you can cut it off at that point you're not going to need more than adjustment that you've got there. So I'll leave that for now. And then check your drill fits. And it should lock in quite nicely. And have a bit of a twang to it like that. And as you can see, that's a really deep bow. And that one is quite shallow. Both of them should work. We're going to find out shortly. And that'll be the next bit. Let's burn her in.